My guest today is leading one of the most important cultural institutions in Queens to its next chapter. Julia del Palacio, Executive Director of the Queens Theatre. Hi, thank you for joining me.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about your background for people who don't know you because you're newly appointed to the Queens Theatre.
I was born and raised in Mexico, Mexico City, and moved to New York over 20 years ago to do graduate studies. I trained as a historian, and I wanted to be a history professor, but I was also a dancer, and I finished my studies and kind of, realized that academia wasn't my path necessarily. And so I decided to go into arts administration, started off at Kupferberg Center for the Arts at Queens College, was there for 12 years. And then the opportunity opened up to lead Queens Theatre. And I had done my dance debut in New York City at Queens Theatre over 20 years ago. And so to me, going back there as the executive director was like a dream come true.
It's like a full circle.
Exactly.
And when you were back in Mexico, did you study dance? And what initially drew you to history? Because those are two very different things.
Yeah. So I do a style of dance that is very traditional. It's a folk dance from Mexico called son jarocho from the state of Veracruz in Mexico. And it's a dance with a lot of history. It's a mix of Spanish, indigenous, and Western African rhythms and movement. And so I felt that dance and history were very related and that tradition needs history. Like tradition, for it to continue to survive, needs to evolve, but at the same time needs to honor its history. And so it was a natural choice for me. And I've always loved history. And part of the reason why I also love Queens Theatre it's because it's such a historic place. And so I feel again like it's a natural place for me to be in.
So when you moved here, you started work also in arts administration. Was there any moment, well, going back to history, but was there any specific moment that you said, you know what, that's not for me? Or it was just this intuition? What was it?
I think it was a mix of both. I think I was having the intuition that academia wasn't going to work out for me because it's a hard field to find a job in. That's something that's permanent, that's stable. And most times people have to move out of where they study. Like, for example, I studied in New York City. I went to Columbia University, and I would have had to move to a different state probably to start working on my academic career. And I didn't want to move out of New York City because I had my dance and artistic community here. And it's a very rich community of Mexican Americans, people who love the son jarocho tradition, and I didn't want to leave them. And so I decided I don't want to move anywhere else. And if finding job in academia is going to be so hard in New York City, I want to explore other options. And I started trying to see if there were opportunities for me in especially at Queens College because I had a contact there and they took me through a tour of Colden Auditorium, which is one of the largest venues in Queens, and the backstage and the offices, and I just fell in love. And to me, it was like, I want to work here. I want to work in a theater. I don't, it's fine for me to leave academia. I know history and the studying history will always be part of who I am because I love it. But the theater is what really, makes my, like passion flow.
And so when you started working at Queen's Theatre, did you stop dancing or you still were doing it on the side?
I was still very much doing it on the side. I was fortunate enough that the work that I was doing at Kupferberg was somewhat flexible. There were times where I could, take some annual leave to do some touring with a project that I was working with, that I could, use some of the lessons that I was learning as an arts administrator to apply to my artistic project as well and some other contacts. And so I feel like it was a nice, a nice relationship between my artistic career and the arts administration. And yeah, I was able to keep both for a long time.
And before you, we filmed another show, and Carisha Batan was here, and she's from the Queensborough Dance Festival. And we talked about a lot of the challenges that the dance community experience, and in general, art communities, rehearsal space in Queens, funding. During your years at Queens College and as a dancer, what would you say other challenges besides those two that the art community experiences in Queens?
I think, I mean, a rehearsal space is huge, and especially the type of dance that I do is percussive, and so we have shoes that have nails on the soles, and so it is very hard to find places where you can rehearse with those types of shoes because nobody wants their floors damaged, but at the same time, it creates an equity issue where it's like only some dancers are able to access those spaces. Percussive dancers like flamenco dancers or tap dancers or son jarocho dancers, we have to find other ways to work, and that makes it challenging. And of course, there was a time when I had the dream of maybe just live off my art and just be a dancer full time, and that's just not, it wasn't financially feasible for me. And I think that's what happens with so many artists where they have to work so many different jobs and try to really make ends meet. I had the fortune of having this arts administration job that allowed me some flexibility, at the same time gave me the resources to sort of survive at the same time that I could do my art still.
And transitioning to Queen's Theatre, was it something on your agenda? Did you had your eye on Queen's Theatre, or also working as an art administrator? Did you feel like you were making difference and you wanted to make more difference in a bigger institution where you have more leadership role?
Yeah.
What was that transition like?
Well, first of all, I was not looking to leave Queens College. I was really happy there. I've been working at the Queens College School of the Arts as well as Cuthbert Center for the Arts and working with students. I mean, I came from academia, so to me, working with students, with faculty was so natural and I loved it. But I always also loved Queen's Theater. I think it's, such a wonderful institution and love the work that Taryn Sacramone, my predecessor, was doing. And I learned through the grapevine that Taryn had decided to leave for a different opportunity and that they were looking for recommendations for names, basically, that could take people who could take her place. And I mean, it took me a weekend to think about it, but I was like, that would be so exciting just to, first of all, advance my career because I think I was ready at that point to take more of a leadership role, but also just, be part of that history. To me, felt like, a dream that I wanted to pursue. And yeah, and it became true. And it's just so exciting.
And you're the first Latina executive director. What does that mean for you?
It means that I have, I think there's some great expectations, I think, in terms of also where the theater is located in the heart of Corona, Queens, with such a large Latino population. And we serve people from East Elmhurst and Jackson Heights and obviously all of Queens. But because of where we are located geographically and also the communities that come to Flushing Meadows Park that are very largely Latino, I think we can play a larger role with that community. And me being Latina myself, like I feel like I have the obligation almost to do that, to serve those communities and to just apply what I know, my lived experience to serving the community in that way.
And is your approach different from the executive director before? And what does that look like with the communities that you mentioned?
I think so I'm a dancer, but I'm also a musician in the sense that the dance that I do is percussive, and so it's I provide the percussion to the music when I dance, and so music is such an important part of what I do artistically. And I mean, I have had the privilege of seeing how music impacts audiences and how live music really can change lives. I mean, the same as other performing arts that like theater and dance, but I want to bring in a lot more live music, which I think was not featured as much at the theater before, and so there will be a lot more live music. So stay tuned for that.
So, what is one thing that you want people, when they come to Queen's Theater, to experience or feel?
I want to be a place where people feel at home, where they feel like they'll have something to go see that's always interesting, that's always culturally relevant, that they can, even if it's not their first choice in terms of like say that somebody loves salsa, maybe we don't have a salsa show that weekend, but we have something else that they might be like, oh, you know what, this looks interesting, let me go check it out, because it's such a welcoming place. It's a place where I feel at home, where I know the people who are taking the tickets, and so I want to really be part of the community. And so for that, there will be a lot of programming and in the different spaces of the theater, so that people have a lot of choices to, to pick when they're trying to find cultural entertainment.
For the people who are not from Queens and they never been around this area, if they come to Queen's Theater, what would you recommend them do before or after? I know there are a lot of places around, but people don't know because it's not very easily accessible with the train.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you need to drive.
Yeah, I mean, you can take the train, and we have a shuttle. So for most of our shows, there's a shuttle that takes you from the train stop from Willets Point, the 7 train, to the theater. And so even if you take the train and don't want to walk through the park to get to the theater, you can make it there. I know it's not the most accessible venue, unfortunately, but I would say there's so much to do in the area. You can go to Jackson Heights and have some amazing food, and then take a short train ride to Flushing Meadows, and then take the shuttle to the theater. Or if it's a nice day, just take a stroll through the park and get to the theater. And then, yeah, I mean, we have we can make it an experience at the theater as well, where you could have a little drink. There's a nice lobby where you can hang out for a little bit, and it's just, it feels like you can make an experience out of it.
It's a very beautiful space, Queen's Theater. And I didn't know they have a shuttle, so that is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you worked in arts administration. What is something people that don't know or misunderstand about how to operate an art organization? Because it's very different than other organizations, I think.
Yes. I think, well, I mean, an arts nonprofit, I think, works like many other nonprofits, where we are always mission driven. We're always looking to fulfill our mission, which in our case at Queen's Theater is to serve the communities of Queens with high quality, affordable cultural entertainment. And so that means that a lot of our shows, we don't make money off our shows, really. We subsidize a lot of our shows to keep our tickets affordable, so that if a family of 4 wants to come out to see a performance, they don't have to, end up paying hundreds of dollars like it happens now. I have 2 small children, and every time we go out, it's like, how is this so expensive? I don't get it. And so I think that for us, what sometimes is misunderstood, or not for us only, but for arts nonprofits, is that it can feel on paper that we have a large budget, but once you start breaking it down, it's like, okay, a lot of our shows we have to, like I said, subsidize, because ticket sales, we want to keep them. Ticket prices, we want to keep them affordable, and we want to continue to serve that mission and not leave anyone out, where people feel like they can come to Queen's Theater and they won't be spending a lot of money. They will be having a good experience. They'll feel at home. So I think that budgets is probably the most misunderstood part of nonprofit work.
That's a lot to balance.
Yeah.
Take me through your day, or how do you decide on programming? Do you sit with a team of people, or do you research and have it in your head and you tell people what to do and they just do it? Like, how does it work?
All of the above. It's a little bit of everything. So sometimes I have an idea in my head and I just go ahead and contact an artist agent, or I do some research and figure out, which artist I want to bring. Say, for example, for a salsa show, I look at the different options and see, okay, this looks like a great offering for our audiences, things like that. And then I do have a programming meeting every week where I sit with our production team and also our programming director, Sean Neblett, and our sort of marketing team. And we sit together and say, okay, this is what's coming up, or this is what we would like to see to offer. Right now, we just launched a new series called the B Side. That's like the B side of a cassette tape or a vinyl record, where traditionally hidden gems would be in it, right? Like it wouldn't be the immediate hits, but those songs that suddenly was like, oh, actually, this is a great song. And so what we're doing is we're featuring emerging artists, a lot of them from Queens, with the idea that that's the hidden gem, that's the artist that's up and coming, and that maybe in a few years you're going to say, oh my God, I saw them at Queens Theater first. And so that we do a lot in as a team, where we say, okay, what can we do? Do we feature these artists or this type of music or this type of theater? And so it's a lot of collaboration, but some decisions I have to make. And that's, I think, what they say is like the part of the executive director position that's a little lonely, where in the end the ultimate decisions are yours to make, and the responsibility then falls on, like, for it to, if it works, then great. If it doesn't work, then it's like, whoops, well, my bad, so it's interesting.
And be the bad guy sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah.
What was the first show that you put when you started?
Well, I haven't. Well, so the first show that we presented at the theater when I started, so I started December 1st of last year. So I've only been on the job for 4 months. But that weekend, we presented a company called Parsons Dance. They're based here in New York City, and they're an amazing, amazing company. They just do such, athletic dance work that is just incredible. And so to me, I knew them from way before. I admired their work. So to me, to like stand on that stage and say, ladies and gentlemen, Parsons Dance, as an executive director of an organization, was just, again, like a dream come true. But then later in this, well, for Valentine's Day, or prior to Valentine's Day, we did a salsa show, and that was a lot of fun. And that was the one that I kind of like put on the stage, and it was just great to see people enjoy themselves, and the bands were amazing, and it felt like a good beginning for me.
So, from what I'm understanding, to be an executive director of an art organization, it helps to have that background, or not necessarily? I guess that helps you lead in the way you lead and the programmings you choose, from what I'm hearing you say.
I think so. I mean, I know plenty of executive directors who don't come from an artistic background. I mean, that they love the arts, but they haven't been artists themselves. And I think that they bring perhaps a more maybe a more objective perspective. As an artist, I always, feel like an artist, and I'm like, well, uh, perhaps the business aspect of it becomes more like leaning towards favoring the artist, or maybe, I think that I, as an artist, and I think things may happen to other executive directors who were artists at one point, we have to like really like draw back and say, like we need to lead a business, a good business in a way, like a fiscally successful enterprise, and therefore we need to balance our desire to support artists with the need to keep a balanced budget and things like that. But yeah, I mean, definitely in terms of curation, I think it does help in our relationship with artists. It helps to have been on the other side of it, because it just makes it a more informed connection, I would say.
And you talk about access to arts, to children and underserved communities. Why is that important to you?
I mean, I think that this has become a little bit of a cliche, but I am a true believer that art changes lives, and that really opens people's perspective around things. I mean, the also something that has become a little bit of a cliche. That's like, for example, the universal language of music, where you do have moments where there's no other way to connect but through the arts. Like sometimes people are just not connecting because of different religious or political or ideological uh, agendas or interests, and suddenly the arts become that way for them to be together in the same space and enjoy something together and realize that we have more in common than we think. And so for children who are in areas or in schools or in communities where there isn't that much access to the arts, I think they're missing out on something that's so important. And maybe if they don't become artists themselves, like I'm not saying that, you should be an artist, but it's, I think, enriches one's perspective and makes you a more empathetic and more willing to connect with other people, other cultures, other communities. And in the end, if somebody does want to be an artist, they need to be represented on the stages, as in they need to see themselves on a stage. And so that's why I also think that what we present in the theater should be very diverse, because that way different communities can say, well, I could do that too, and that's so important.
And if someone has a project or an idea, could they come to Queen's Theater? If they have, let's say, a group of performance, could they come to the theater and pitch it?
Of
How does
course.
it work?
Yeah, of course. So we do different types of shows because we have different types of stages. And so we have one big theater that sits 472 people. Then we have a smaller cabaret space that sits about 60, and then a studio theater that sits about 90. And so depending what the project is, or the ability of the project to sell tickets and things like that, we can say, okay, we'll just gonna put you in the cabaret and get that place filled up with people who really want to see you. Some emerging projects might not be a good fit for the large theater, because then it's going to feel a little empty. You don't want that. So it's it's a lot of like moving pieces when you choose who to present at the theater. But yeah, anyone is welcome to come to the theater and say, hey, I have this project, this theater project. We work with a lot of emerging theater companies, and I mean, I love supporting the work of emerging artists, because that's the moment when you need it the most, when like you have something special, but because you don't have all that experience before, then the people who believe in you and just put you on their stages are, the ones that are the biggest supporters. So,
And from your observation and experience, what do you think Queens needs? What is one thing, if you can have a magic wand and doing Queens more for the arts and culture, what would you do?
I think that, we've all been talking about affordability so much, and I don't think that's a problem with Queens. I think it's a just general problem where I think should be more artistic activities that are affordable and accessible. And accessible, I also mean via public transportation. We were just talking about that, where, Queens Theater is not as accessible as it perhaps could be. I was before at Cufferberg Center for the Arts. It was the same thing, where there's no train that gets you to Queens College, and So if I had a magic wand, I would probably put a train stop right outside Queens Theater and a train stop right outside Cufferberg Center for the Arts, so that people who want to enjoy the arts, they don't feel like they can't make it there because they can't, ride a train over there.
And what do you think Queens in general gets right about culture? Because a lot of people travel cross bridge or tunnel to get art, but I know from experience, because of Queen's Public Television, we covered so many great organizations and places, and there's so much art and culture. But I also know, yes, accessibility it's harder. But what is one thing that we get right in Queens that no other borough gets it?
Yeah, I think that Queens has been the most diverse county in the nation, right, for a long time. And I think that we embody it as organizations. I think all of us who present artistic programming realize the benefits of presenting that diversity, of like really embodying that diversity. And I think that we offer a lot of that affordability. I think that if you go to Manhattan to see shows, you end up paying a lot more. And many times we are presenting a lot of the same artists that people in Manhattan or organizations in Manhattan are presenting. And the problem that I see maybe in Queens is that I don't know. I haven't discovered the right formula quite yet, but how do we let people know what we're doing? Sometimes I still run into people who tell me Queens Theater. I don't know what that is. I'm like, it's Queens Theater. Like it's in the heart of Flushing Meadows Park. Like, but that's not their fault, right? That's in a way how like we perhaps market ourselves, how we spread the word. And so what I say sometimes when people talk about the outer boroughs, how Queens is an outer borough, I say, well, an outer borough is a question of perspective. If you're in Queens, then Manhattan is your outer borough, right? Like
Yeah.
it's your center is Queens, and so I love for Queens Theater to be that center for many people where they feel like, oh, well, I don't have to go to Manhattan. I could just go to Queens Theater and I'll find really quality, high quality entertainment for an affordable price.
And do you think, just like other organizations, also Queen's Theater doesn't have the funds and budget for marketing? Because a lot of the organizations that we covered, they don't have the marketing budget. So a lot of people don't know they exist, because now we get the information from social media, and we say social media is affordable. It is, because you just need a phone and it's free, but still organizations don't have, they need a person.
Yeah.
Would you say that's true also for Queen's Theater? And
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. I think that we are always triaging in smaller arts organizations where we're always, trying to fix the pipe that broke at the same time that we're trying to market a show. And sometimes we need to prioritize the pipe that broke, because otherwise we're going to have a flood in the building. And marketing, I feel a lot of us end up saying, okay, we'll just do it in-house. We'll just, do it ourselves. We just post it ourselves. Like, I mean, I know directors who are posting on the organization social media themselves, right? They don't have a dedicated marketing person. And so many people in arts organizations have to wear so many different hats that the programming person is also doing marketing, or the accessibility person is also doing this or that, this other thing, and that it's a challenge. And yeah, I mean, social media is very accessible, but in the end, the organization that's able to post more frequently, that is able to post more engaging content because they have more of a budget to create these like really cool videos, and so it's not an entirely democratic set of platforms. I think it still favors those who have the most resources. So yeah, definitely a challenge.
True. And so, speaking of the future, what are some of the programming that are coming up and that you're excited that you're putting up?
I am very excited about Charo. I don't know if you know Charo. She's a TV personality, an incredible guitarist. She plays like flamenco guitar, but she was a household name in many Latin American homes for many, many years. And so she played at Queen's Theater a couple of years ago, and it was a hit show, sold out. People loved it. And so we're bringing her back for Halloween. So October 31st, Charoween, and it's gonna be so much fun. I'm also excited about our upcoming, or like our next Valentine's Day show. That's also gonna be salsa and merengue, and it's gonna be so much fun. And I mean, there's a lot of really cool programming that's coming up. But I'm really loving how things are shaping up, that are again so diverse in terms of the styles, the disciplines, and the cultural traditions that will be represented. I think there'll be a little bit for everybody.
One question that I ask all my guests, and the last question. If someone is new in Queens, where would you send them to get culture? Except Queens Theater.
I'm biased because I just came out of Coverwork Center. That I love them. I love it. But I think there's so many amazing arts organizations. I mean, if they're fans of the experimental, I would send them to the Chocolate Factory because it's such an interesting place. If depending on what they like, but there are so many things to see. I would send them to Central and Eastern, Southern Queens. I think because I think Western Queens they get a lot of attention. They can fend for themselves.
We do.
Yeah, exactly.
I live in Jackson
Oh,
Heights,
there, yeah.
so yes.
That's great.
Okay, great. Thank you for being here and being such a wonderful guest.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
That's it for today's show. I'll see you next time on Around Queens.